Hi, and welcome back to Reclamation Radio. I am Dr. Kelly Brogan. And what I love about my containers is that the women I attract always have some audacious questions to ask me. So it's my intention for the musings that I share on these topics to grow the permission field of what's possible, and also to offer relatable reframes that can jailbreak you from your victim stories. So you might notice that I'm a bit more familiar and free when I'm answering these questions in our private spaces. So take a listen, and I hope you'll take the opportunity to submit your questions to me in my membership Vital Life project. Today's question. I'm just out of a breakup and in newly found singlehood, and unexpectedly, I stumbled across another person that feels so different in a good way. And I'm conflicted about the timing because it feels so soon, and I'm concerned about upholding my sovereignty. In my experience, both with girlfriends and in my own unfoldment, sometimes, especially in the wake of a challenging breakup that invoked some of our, deeper woundology, we might encounter like a 2.0, right? Shortly thereafter, which is actually my coach says she sees the same thing, which does not make it obviously fact or reality, but just patterns, which is somebody who has a lot of similar attractive signatures, but is like more available emotionally than potentially the previous partner. And there is almost like this test to see whether you can recognize the incompatibility such that you're not going to take the bait, right? So like a typical example would be like, let's say you're coming out of a relationship where you were the anxiously attached partner typically, and you are in dynamic with somebody who is more avoidant, and you go through this breakup. And then, the next two people who express interest in you are married. So the most concrete example of an unavailable man, right? And so how might you not take the bait of like, ooh, I wonder what could happen here. Like, I wonder if he might, maybe he'll have an open relationship, or maybe he'll leave his woman or whatever. And let's just see what happens, or let's just like text a little bit or whatever. And instead of taking that bait, you're going to recognize that even though this person seems so into you and so amazing or whatever, that they're not available. And you can see that. And this is a lot of my interest in sobriety as a concept, because I found that we can become intoxicated by we can become intoxicated by psych drugs, by alcohol, and by our projections. And how can you see with sobriety, like what's actually in front of you? And I have a sense that's what you're asking, is how do I remain sober so that I can stay with myself? And if it's not that kind of a situation, then it may very well be, a new kind of partnership, right? So there are all of these different kinds of partnerships that we can cultivate. And the karmic ones, if you want to call it that, like the twin flame kind of dynamics, are a very specific, type of toxic, right? Very specific type of growth oriented, churn of your inner world. However, you may be onto a different kind of partnership that is in service of a totally different kind of experience. And so all there is to do is to simultaneously explore the partnership and husband yourself. Right. So there's no world where somebody meets all of the needs that you're not already practiced in meeting yourself. So when you're in that dependent position where you need someone's feedback, you need someone's validation, you need somebody's emotional stability, you need them to behave in a certain way in order for you to feel okay, we know that is not sovereignty, that is dependency. And it's the same with your relationship with the world as it is, in specific dynamic, because it's holofractal. So how can you begin to husband yourself emotionally to interact with your own emotions in such a way that not only do you offer yourself the conditions for what it is that you need for your emotional needs to be met, which actually can extend all the way to stay in this relationship or go, but also it is on the micro level, like, this is what I need for my needs to, for the fulfillment of my needs on this Friday night, right? And that you're aware of it and you are in service of providing your own need meeting, right? So when you're in that dynamic with yourself, it's very hard to get lost. It's hard to get lost because your commitment is to yourself. Your devotion is to yourself, and you're not going to take bait, right? You're not going to abandon yourself. One of the things that I have witnessed is the way that we can be really clear. Like if you're really clear that you feel safest in relationship when the man is the financial provider and caretaker, for example. And that's just what you want. It's what you require actually to feel like you can relax into the polarity that you want to exist in. Okay, well, let's say you go out to dinner and or you travel somewhere together, whatever, and he wants to go Dutch. And you might say like, oh, well, he's getting his shit together financially. And like, I'm sure eventually it's going to work out the way I want it to. I'm just going to give him some time. But you don't say anything and you ignore that you already know this is a part of your requirements, right? Because there's preferences, but then there's requirements. And this is just an example. This may be a crazy requirement for somebody to have. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Your requirements are your requirements. So for you to get really clear on what it is that you need, that you're going to manipulatively try to get, right? So later in the relationship, you may be keeping tabs on like who's paid for what. You may actually generate the conditions for your own lack of success so that you're financially caretaken by this person. So you're going to meet the need if it is one, consciously or unconsciously. So up front, the first moment there is a flag of incompatibility, if you don't interact with that with acknowledgement that if you pretend it's cool, you're self-betraying, right? If you pretend that you are somebody who can be with somebody who in conflict just needs as much time as they need, no container, they just need time. I'll get back to you when I'm ready. And you pretend that works for you, but it really doesn't, then you are self-betraying. So as long as you are a vigilant keeper of your own needs, then you're not going to be in a position where literally anything that happens is, hurtful to you because you are the one who is managing the fulfillment of your needs. And you're not actually requiring that somebody be who it is that they aren't because you're in sober assessment of who it is that they are and communicating around how that interacts with your needs. So I would say, enjoy this. Sounds super exciting and fun. And also keep that red flag list close to your heart and interact with it and be really honest with yourself about when it is that you feel like your safety and security being challenged. See how you can interact with your own needs. It may be voicing your needs. It may be creating the conditions for your needs to be met. Or maybe acknowledging that, this person isn't actually making that available. And how does that work for you? Is it enough of a priority in your needs value system, that it's a deal breaker? And outside of that, it's not going to be a problem. So what is a flower essence? So many people are coming to understand plant medicine and holistic healing. But what I have for you is so potent and beautiful. I want you to really get it. My favorite brand, Lotus Way, has the best quiz for you to really understand the power of flowers, and which elixirs are most supportive for you personally. So actually, depending on which flower image you're attracted to, you will learn more about your own true essence and what may be latent or dormant